Another thing to think about with your machine, obviously, is the concaves. There are tons of options for concaves in the machine, whether it's through Deere or aftermarket. Just remember, there are trade-offs with any direction you go with a concave. We want to be able to thresh that grain, so knock the kernels off the ear or get that pod busted open on soybeans. And then letting it through is important too, but primarily in the concave, we want to thresh it first. So whether it's a round bar, which is a little bit more gentle, especially for ears of corn, it'll start them rolling through the concave nice and gently and keep those ears intact. There are other options to get more aggressive from the round bar, but round bar is kind of the baseline for gentleness on the crop. You see in this machine, we've got a Condex. It's a max round system. So it's going to be a little bit more aggressive in that very first section to start that rolling and tumbling through the concave earlier. But regardless, if you're going with a Deere round bar, a Condex system, or any aftermarket system, just remember, how aggressive is it going to be on that crop? Because it's got to knock that grain loose, but we also don't want it to be too aggressive where it beats up that straw and chaff and cob too. If we were to put like a keystock concave in corn, we'd have lots of problems because it just grind everything else up too, cause us issues with our cleaning. So it goes back to the idea of doing just enough to get the job done and not over processing anything. It's going to help us be efficient with our horsepower. So remembering how aggressive our concaves are, and also setting that gap accordingly too. So that's whether your combine advisor is doing that or you're setting it yourself, the gap there will be, well, basically how big's the grain you're processing and how much do you need to do to get it off. So in corn, you've got a big ear that's got to tumble around in there and you want to keep that ear intact. So in corn, we're going to run that a little bit more open. Typically for me, I open that concave to pretty close to either dead on or in drier corn, 2, 3, 4 millimeters over the cob diameter, the shelled cob diameter. That way that shelled cob can roll all the way through, not get broken up and end up in our grain tank. So concave gap relative to the concave choices we put in this machine. So think about all that when you're going into harvest and prepping your machine or thinking about changing concaves. Most of our guys in our area, corn and soybeans, round bar is going to be great for both switching back and forth, even mid-season.
It's very important to calibrate your concave opening at least every year at a minimum. Along with calibrating your concave opening, you need to make sure that your pinch points in your concave are set correctly. Refer to the operator's manual for exact locations, as some machines are adjusted a little bit differently. This machine, for example, right now has Condex concaves on the front, round bars on the back. When you're going to adjust them, you want to make sure the front and the back are set correctly. Even though the cab might say that you have it set at 28 millimeters, doesn't mean that it's at 28 millimeters. The front might be at 28 millimeters, but the back, depending on how it's adjusted, could be up or down. When that happens, it can affect multiple things. It can affect how you're threshing, how well it's threshing, and if you're getting grain damage as well. So make sure you're not only just zeroing your concaves through the calibration, but you're also coming down here and physically making sure that the concaves are what the display is telling you they are.